Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in a previous video I talked about secondary progressions, and in another video I discussed solar arc directions, so what they mean and how to find them and so on. And secondary progressions and solar arc directions, they are great timing tools within astrology. I will link those videos down below so you can watch them if you have not already. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about transits. Again, looking at what they mean, how to read them, and how to find them. So on that note, I do hope that you find this video to be helpful and useful. Let's do this. Okay, so firstly, when you are born, the planets are in a particular position in the sky. The positions of these planets, they are seen in your birth chart. But the thing is that the planets will continue to move. So if you're born with Venus in Libra, for example, at 20 degrees, Venus will of course continue moving around the other 11 signs. When Venus moves through Scorpio, you will experience a Venus in Scorpio transit. When it moves through Sagittarius, you will experience a Venus in Sagittarius transit. When it moves into Capricorn, well, you will then experience a Venus in Capricorn transit, so on, so forth. And eventually, Venus will make its way through all 12 signs and it will be in Libra once again at 20 degrees. This returning point of Venus is called your Venus return. Now, this also happens with all the other planets, but of course keep in mind that they all travel at different speeds. So for example, you're not going to experience a Pluto return. I'd be really surprised if you did. Essentially, the planets will continue moving throughout your chart, and it's transits that will give you some insight into what you may be experiencing. But not just you, everybody. Transits happen in real time and everybody experiences the same transits but in different areas of their chart. So with Jupiter being in Aries right now, for example, maybe you have an Aries rising, therefore Jupiter is transiting your first house. Or maybe you have a Gemini rising, therefore Jupiter is transiting your 11th house, so on and so forth. Though on the other hand, you also must take your unique chart into consideration. For this reason, transits can impact us in different ways. Moreover, transits can show you the type of things you experience day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, depending on the length of the transit. So for example, the moon changes signs every 2 to 2.5 days. And so for 2 days, you might want nothing more than to cozy up in front of the sofa when you get home from work. And so maybe during this time, the moon is in Taurus. But then as the moon changes, as it shifts into Gemini, for the next couple of days, you're ready to get stuck into your studies and reading. You're more interested in mental stimulation. Though another example, maybe Mercury is in Pisces for 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks, you just want to quiet your mind and breathe out. You want to listen to relaxing music, or you want to paint or draw, but then Mercury moves into Aries and you decide, you know what, I'm going to work out. Or maybe you strike up more conversations than usual. And as you're communicating with others, you're passionate. You can hear it in your voice. Can you hear it in my voice? My secondary progressed Mercury is in Aries. Now these changes, they don't necessarily mean you have changed as a person. It's just that during those couple of weeks, you were more daring or you were more eager. So another example is Saturn has been in Aquarius for the past 2 years. And during this time, you've probably noticed that you've been faced with limitations within social circles. Quite literally, we have all experienced social restrictions due to obvious reasons. But then, as Saturn moves into Pisces in 2023, the type of limitations we experience, they're going to be different. Maybe we all experience imagination restrictions or emotional sensitivity restrictions. Again, these things don't necessarily mean our personality has changed. It's just that these things are what we're going through, what we're experiencing during a specific period of time. Though again, do keep in mind your unique chart. Now, the secondary progressions, on the other hand, well, they are more representative of how our personality changes. They are much more personal and closer to us, and they really look at how we evolve as people. But when it comes to transits, it's as if we are in this together. Especially when it comes to generational planet transits, being Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. Still though, like I said, consider your unique chart. Right, so let's go over a quick tutorial on how to find transits. I'm going to use my own chart as an example for the purpose of this video, and I'm going to be using astro.com for the purpose of this tutorial. Full credit goes to astro.com for their chart generators. So go on to astro.com and type in all of your birth information, your time of birth, your place of birth, your date of birth, all of that good stuff. Then select your name and then go to extended chart selection. Once here, select your chosen house system. I'm going to be using whole signs for the purpose of this video. Of course, you can choose or use whichever house system suits you. Then go to chart type and select natal chart and transits. Now in this section here where it says start date, you can see it says the 16th of May 2022. You can change this date to match up with your current date, or you can change the date to go to a different moment in time, to go to the past, go to the future. It's really up to you. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to keep it at the 16th of May 2022. Okay. So once you have successfully selected your chosen date, go to click here to show the chart. Now the planets you see here in green around the outer wheel, these are your transits. As you can see from my chart, Saturn is transiting Aquarius in my 6th house, Uranus is transiting Taurus in my 9th house, and Jupiter is transiting Aries in my 8th house. So on that note, let's actually look at what the transit planets represent. So keep in mind both the signs and the houses. So for example, the Sun transiting Leo in your 7th house is going to be very different to the Sun transiting Capricorn in your 12th house. And I do also just want to mention here before we get into this, I will be mostly focusing upon houses. Okay, so firstly, the transit sun. The transit sun is going to show you an area of life where you shine and where you express yourself. So for example, we're in the heart of Taurus season right now. Well, we're kind of coming to the end of it still. We're in Taurus season right now, and therefore if you have Taurus in your 6th house, then every Taurus season you may shine when it comes to 6th house matters. So this could be getting things in order, tidying up, organizing your schedules, security in work may be highlighted. But then as we move into Gemini season, you may express yourself within your relationships. So you may shine when it comes to socializing. So just drawing from my own experience, I have Aries in the 8th house, and every Aries season I feel like I'm being reborn. This year I actually joined the gym, which it's been really helping me both physically and psychologically. And other years I've made plans to go traveling during Aries season. Just basically during Aries season, I feel this real push to start something new, but it's very strong. Then moving on to the transit moon. So the transit moon is going to highlight an area of life where you are sensitive and emotional, where you seek protection, and this can last a couple of days. So for example, the moon has just moved out of Scorpio and into the sign of Sagittarius, and so if you have Sagittarius in your second house, then when the moon is in Sagittarius, which is every 28 days or so, well, you might feel emotional about second house matters. Maybe certain feelings come up when it comes to security and money, or maybe you feel this enthusiasm about future financial aspirations, or maybe you experience greater sensitivity surrounding your self-worth, or you feel concerned about your security. I know for me, when the moon is in Virgo, I'm super productive and I feel like I can get things done a lot more easily. And I do have a Virgo rising, and Jupiter is also there in my first house. Moving on to the transit Mercury. So the transit Mercury is going to highlight an area of life where you're thinking about things. It's where you're willing to learn new things. So for example, Mercury is currently in Gemini, and so if you have Gemini in the 10th house like myself, when Mercury is in Gemini, which can vary, okay, well, you might think about your career, about your public image, about your reputation, or you might be willing to learn new things when it comes to your online persona, your online presence. Now, Mercury is currently retrograde in Gemini, which definitely changes things. When a planet is retrograde, it's a time to reevaluate and to review things, to revisit things. So in the case of Mercury retrograde in Gemini in the 10th house, well, there's a lot of reviewing being done when it comes to career and public image matters. Moving along to the transit Venus. So the transit Venus is going to highlight an area of life where you consider love and relationships. It's where you consider value and money. So for example, Venus is currently in Aries, and so if you have Aries in the first house, when Venus is in Aries, which is every year or so, but again, things can vary due to retrogrades, you might start something new and pleasurable, or maybe a relationship changes your identity, or maybe there is this reboot when it comes to your identity. You connect with your self-worth in a whole new way, or maybe you earn money in a new way. Again, just drawing from my own experience, I have Capricorn in the 5th house, and when Venus was in Capricorn for those 6 months from November 2021 until March 2022, I restructured my existing creative projects. I considered their value and their longevity, and I also considered the seriousness of my love life. I made big changes when it came to my love life, when it came to my creativity. Though keep in mind as well that we had that Venus retrograde in Capricorn, and so I revisited a lot of things. And I'm so much better for it today, and I was also going through my Venus return. And so I suppose you could say during that time I turned a new leaf. Big changes for the better, for sure. So looking at the transit Mars is going to highlight an area of life where you feel motivated and driven. It's where you push and where you want to come first, where you want to get things done. So for example, Mars is currently in Pisces, and so if you have Pisces in the 8th house, when Mars is in Pisces, which is every 2 years or so, again varying because of retrogrades, you might want to come first when it comes to shared resources with others, or you might push to make things happen when it comes to intimacy and emotional bonding, but you might do this passively or subtly. Or you might feel driven to achieve goals when it comes to occult subjects. I know for myself, I have Scorpio in the 3rd house, and when Mars was in Scorpio back in November 2021, I felt focused on my studies and I had a strong desire to get to the bottom of things. I pushed myself to learn and to make intellectual discussions happen. All right, so looking at the transit Jupiter. The transit Jupiter is going to highlight an area of life where you experience good luck and blessings. It's where you feel optimistic and more uplifted. You might also experience new opportunities. For example, Jupiter just moved into Aries and it will be there until October 28th and again from December 2022 until May 2023. So if you have Aries in the 4th house, when Jupiter is in Aries, which is every 12 years or so, you might experience blessings when it comes to your family, or you might feel optimistic about your living situation, or you might experience new opportunities when it comes to housing and property, or maybe you feel lucky and blessed about your current living situation. Just looking at my own experience here, I have Libra in the 2nd house, and whilst Jupiter was in Libra back in 2017, I experienced new opportunities when it came to earning a living. This YouTube channel really started to take off. Okay, so let's now look at the transit Saturn. The transit Saturn is going to highlight an area of life where you are faced with limitations and restrictions, but it's also where you will mature and where you're going to work hard. So for example, Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last 2 years. So if you have Aquarius in the 11th house, when Saturn is in Aquarius, which is every 28 to 30 years or so, you might be faced with limitations when it comes to groups and alliances and friends, or you might experience social restrictions, societal restrictions, or you might mature greatly when it comes to your group participations, your group involvements. You might work hard on non-conforming ideas that you wish to bring forth to society. And when I think back to the end of 2017, when Saturn moved out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn, around that time I officially moved out of my family home and into my own place in Belfast. I was traveling on and off before that, and interestingly, I have Sagittarius in the 4th house of home and family. Moving on then to the transit Uranus. So the transit Uranus is going to highlight an area of life where you experience sudden changes and flashes of insight. It's also where you'll want to think for yourself, you'll seek freedom, you'll not want to follow the crowd. So for example, Uranus is in Taurus right now, and it will continue to be in Taurus until 2025 or so. So if you have Taurus in the 12th house, you might be going through sudden changes when it comes to your time alone, when it comes to retreating. Maybe you are seeking more time to yourself, or more time to retreat, more time to get away. Or maybe you aren't willing to follow the crowd when it comes to spirituality, or when it comes to how you choose to spend your alone time. Now keep in mind that Uranus stays in one sign for about 7 years or so. Therefore, this transit is a lot longer than the Sun transit, for example. Yeah, it's gonna be a long, bumpy, yet exciting ride when it comes to your Uranus transit. And interestingly, when Uranus was in Aries, I went through a roller coaster of a time when it came to my intimate relationships, and I have Aries in the 8th house. I'm glad to be at the other side of that chaos. The transit Neptune then. So the transit Neptune is going to highlight an area of life where you dissolve your ego as you merge with others. It's also where your boundaries are lacking. Actually, they may be non-existent and things may be pretty hazy and foggy and confusing, but it's also where you experience compassion and a lot of sensitivity. So for example, Neptune is home in Pisces right now, and it will continue to be in Pisces until 2025, about that time. So if you have Pisces in the third house, you might be dissolving your ideas to merge with other people's, or you might have little boundaries when it comes to communication, or perhaps things are pretty hazy when it comes to siblings and cousins, or it could be that you are super sensitive to things people say, to the information that you receive from others. Or maybe you are super creative. Now with this, keep in mind that Neptune stays in one sign for about 14 years or so. Therefore, this transit is a long one, and so Neptune will not transit all of your houses. But whatever house Neptune does transit, it's a good idea to ground yourself. Neptune has actually been transiting my 7th house, and so for me, things have been hazy when it comes to relationships. Within my relationships, I've been extra emotional and sensitive. I tend to also take on other people's emotions, and so I need to recharge. Also, I would say that I'm having to develop a thicker skin, and I'm also having to develop boundaries. And last but certainly not least, the transit Pluto. So the transit Pluto is going to highlight an area of life where you go through huge transformations and profound change. Big revelations. You may be reborn within this area of life, or you may experience a great deal of intensity. So for example, Pluto is in Capricorn right now, and it will be moving into Aquarius next year. It will retrograde back into Capricorn, but from 2008, we have been experiencing this Pluto in Capricorn transit. So if you have Capricorn in the 8th house, well, perhaps you have been going through profound change within your intimate relationships. Perhaps you've experienced intense highs and intense lows, or maybe things have risen and fallen when it comes to your partner's money and materials, or perhaps you have become reborn when it comes to your sexuality. You have been going through huge sexuality transformations. Now remember that Pluto can stay in one sign for about 12 to 30 years. So that's very long. And so Pluto most definitely will not transit all of your houses whilst you're alive. But whatever house Pluto does transit, expect huge changes. Changes that will feel extremely uncomfortable. And just drawing from my own experience, whilst Pluto has been in Capricorn, let's just say that I've been going through many rebirths, transformations when it comes to love, and when it comes to my creativity, and also when it comes to children. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video talking about the transits in the birth chart. So I do hope that this video made sense. Please let me know if you could follow along, or if you got something out of this video today. That would be much appreciated. And as always, let me know your thoughts and your opinions. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also give this video a like if you did like it. And I will be back with another video very soon. Bye!